My name is Miss Myers, and you're going to help me find my child.
What sort of sick species is Miss Myers?
Welcome, Metalkind, Fleshkind, and Parrotkind, to episode 463 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 11th of October, 2022, and featuring Sky, written by Phil Ford, and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, and Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra. Which we would have been saying aired 11 years ago today, except we didn't actually stream last week when that would have been correct. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and with me are co-host Randy Ran-san McCulloch.
Hi, back after 2 months.
Color commentator Alex Fireheart.
Hello.
And technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
I slept in. So that's also a heads up as to why I won't be reviewing anything today.
Yeah.
I slept in because when I was intending to try and watch stuff.
I take it you had a long day of work, came home and dropped.
I had a long day of finally not being at work, but also meant I was doing everything around the house. 2 loads of laundry, took a walk, got groceries, came back. And just literally the last half of the day has just been me burnt out. And finally passed out. Oh yeah, I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night, which probably didn't help that matter either.
No.
I can tell you lack of sleep is a big problem. By the way, I am coming at you live from the University of Wisconsin Hospital, where I have been for the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And am for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
So, quickly update you on my situation. What happened was a normal day at home. I went to sit down, use the toilet, like you do, and went to get up and discovered I couldn't. That last push to get up, my legs, my muscle just wouldn't do it. So I tried. Normally, I tried using a cane to help. I tried using my walker to help. None of it was working. Eventually, we had to call in 911. And they nearly had to take a wall down to get me out. Nearly, but didn't. Eventually, it took 5 people, one of which pushing me from behind to get me back on my feet. At which point, I was bundled into the ambulance and taken to the hospital. It turned out I weighed in at a whopping 750 pounds. My body was bloated, and they had to put me on basically a steady IV of Lasix for about 2 weeks to drain about 200 pounds of fluid off my body. Mm-hmm. They've since taken work to try to rebuild my muscles. And I was just getting somewhere with that when my parents came to visit me. First they came to visit once, and on the second time they brought me the lovely gift of apples and COVID. So they visit me on a Monday. They text me on a Wednesday saying, yeah, we just tested positive, so we won't be coming to visit you this weekend. And I'm like, Oh, joy.
You were just
So,
here, though. Shoot.
yeah. And I was already not feeling too well that day. So I told the nurses about it, and they waited a couple more days, tested me on the 1st of October, and I tested positive for COVID. So I went from my nice big hospital room down to the plague ward here and was put what is essentially in a closet. This room is so small they have to tilt my bed sideways to fit it in.
Jeez.
Or kind of, diagonally. And yes, I'm in isolation down here. When the nurses come in, they're wearing hazmat suits.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I came down here originally. I was expecting to see doctors in the black outfits with the long noses.
The plague doctors, yep. I can come
And
visit you in one if you want me to.
And
waiting for that.
was woken up, and I expected to be woken up every morning by somebody hauling a cart down the hallway and banging a metal gong going, "Bring out your dead!" None of that's been true, but they are wearing hazmat suits. They make sure that the air in the room gets pumped outside rather than further into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's, weird isolation stuff, and I have to endure this until the 21st.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, the in-hospital isolation period is 21 days here at UW-Madison.
Yeah, they barely give you a week now outside.
Well, they tell you to isolate.
It's been 5 days. Oh, you're fine to go outside without a mask. And another 5 days. Oh, you're fine to just go wherever. You're not going to spread it anymore. Okay.
Yeah, not in the hospital. And, the thing is that this is a new wave of the stuff, so joy.
Woo. Always new
But,
waves.
yeah. They're trying, because of this, it's quite possible I can no longer continue to live where I was because I need some disabled equipment. So they're looking for some kind of rehab clinic or assisted living facility that I can get moved to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is my life.
This is a thing. It exists, and here we are.
Yep.
On the bright side, I've had a lot of time to play video games and watch TV. I also had the weakest bout of COVID, I think, on record. I had coughing, I had sneezing, I had a runny nose for about 4 hours. I felt run down, and I had a headache with light sensitivity for about 3 days.
Yep.
Actually, my dad has you beat on that one. He got the second time, and he barely noticed that he even had it. He literally only got tested because my mom tested positive a second time. He didn't even notice he had it until he's just like, I just had a little bit of sniffles. Are you sure it's COVID? Apparently.
Which that might have hit you a lot harder if it happened to you at home and not somewhere you had access to, someone who could pay attention and give IVs and whatnot. But
possibly
that's one benefit of the situation.
Yeah. Anybody else?
But
Else?
regardless, it took 3 days to get through my COVID, and I have to wait 21. I've been fighting with the kitchen again.
Oh.
And yeah, it's funny. I order something, they say I'm over by 1 unit. So I go back, I think about it, call back into the new order, we're moving something, and they still say I'm over. Wait a minute. You said it was A, B, or C that I was over with. I removed C. Why am I still over?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm a little annoyed by the fact that because of the COVID policy, they can't actually deliver the food to your room. They leave it outside your room's door, and your nurses are supposed to come and bring it in. Except the nurses don't get informed, and
Oh, great.
sometimes by the time I get to my dinner, it's 2 hours old.
Now, see, I would wait until like 5 to 10 minutes after it's supposed to be there, and then I'd be ringing up somebody to get their butts over here.
I give it 15 to 20 now.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
They say it'll be here in 45 minutes for an hour. It's been an hour and a half. Where's my food? Yeah.
Right.
But a couple of times I had lukewarm mashed potatoes and gravy, and that just won't do.
No, that's not right. That's not right at all.
And they've had to remake my breakfast twice.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yeah, we can just reheat this in the microwave for you. And I'm like, there's hash browns in that, lady. Do you know what happens when you put hash browns in the microwave?
Boom.
You get nasty potato soup.
Or explodes to pieces, depending on how much first.
No,
hash browns.
I mean, they already tend to undercook the hash browns here.
Oof.
But, you nuke them any further, and it's just going to become a liquid.
The one that I definitely am unwilling to reheat from a breakfast is eggs, which is why there have been times when I've ordered breakfast delivered, and I was like, you know what? Just don't give me the eggs, because by the time they get here, they're going to be too cold to eat, and I'm not putting them in the microwave.
Usually you can reheat scrambled eggs, but a fried egg, no.
Oh, yeah, like if I get eggs, I'm getting like over easy or something like that most of the time.
I'm not even allowed to eat those. The only eggs I'm allowed to have are scrambled eggs.
I thought you were going to say like only whites or something. What's the difference about? Is it because like there's no oil needed for scrambled or something?
Yeah, no oil or grease used.
Gotcha.
They can use like low sodium Pam, and then that kind of thing. Whereas part of the fried egg experience is being fried in grease or oil.
Gotcha.
It's like I can't have sausage, but I can have turkey sausage. Because I'm not allowed pork of any kind. Hell, I'm barely allowed beef, and that's only on meatloaf night. I'm not sure why I'm allowed meatloaf and not a hamburger, but,
Swings
whatever.
And roundabouts.
Maybe because meatloaf is baked.
Probably versus fried up on.
Yeah. It's a little bit better. A little bit. Oh, Quick Trip is bringing back the mini tacos, by the way. Permanently. I think they're doing that.
Tacos are good.
I think they're doing that tomorrow, if I recall correctly.
Not that I could go out and get one. I have threatened, I have one more fight with the kitchen. I'm ordering a pizza.
I'm ordering a pizza. You can all deal with it.
So yeah, if somebody comes in here tomorrow with the meaty meat with extra meat, that would be mine.
I have the full meat.
So, how's the rest of y'all's week been?
Well, I've determined that the fact that I don't have any meetings on most Saturdays is definitely part of my circadian rhythm. I've had a few weeks where I had poor sleep and then caught up on Saturday, this week I actually had to do something on Saturday, and I was just, I usually get up a few times during the night. There's no way that I'm going to sleep more than 8 hours without actually noticing it and getting up anyway, because I always need to get up to pee. And then I slept 12 hours on Saturday. On the other nights during the week, I would have loved to sleep 12 hours, but my body woke me up after 6. So it seems my body just happens to know that Saturday is the day that I can slack off, except this Saturday was not a good day to slack off because I had a presentation about some research I did in the nonprofit I work with.
Yeah. Don't even talk to me about waking up in the middle of the night to go to pee. Apparently, my bladder's decided 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is the time it'll need to pee in the middle of the night. And then half the time I can't go back to sleep.
I was going to say, so many nights, especially, like, I still haven't figured out the right time to stop drinking anything, especially since I get super thirsty right when it's time to go to sleep. But I've noticed it seems to be something like 2, 3, 4, and 6 are the times I get up to pee most nights, which is just a proof that I'm not as young as I used to be.
All of them, or just pick a random one?
You at least 3 of the 4 most nights.
Yeah, I only do the one. But mind you, they still give me the diuretic during the day, so I'm going once an hour. And I don't know how much the normal person pees. I normally pee about 250 milliliters. On the diuretics, I've been known to go up to 700. That's right. Diuretics just turn my bladder into a giant brewery. So I wonder I take the stuff and I just want to sleep, because all my body's doing is just like, okay, full power to the bladder and kidneys. Screw everything else.
I bought some loafers because I noticed during the summer when I would swell up, I couldn't fit into my dress shoes all the time. So I bought some loafers that were too big. I meant to do the 7-day try and return, but apparently I messed it up. So I ended up, I guess, just straight up buying them. But then the weather hit the point where I'm not swelling up anymore and my feet actually fit into my regular shoes normally. So I guess my goal now is just to break them in so that they're comfortable by the time next summer comes around.
Right. It seems you have basically become the owner.
Yeah.
You're having feet swelling problem.
So yeah.
I'm warning you, dude. That's how it begins. You'll notice that swelling time keeps increasing till it's all the time.
Gotcha.
And then suddenly you're swelling more and more, and suddenly you're in the hospital with a fluid overflow.
And any advice to stop it from getting that far?
Go see a doctor. Have your blood pressure checked. Have them check your heart, blood pressure. Maybe see if you can cut down on your sodium intake.
Which means that I need to get back to cooking more meals by myself instead of ordering as many.
Oh yeah. Ordering food is the death for you, because they put extra salt in it.
That's partially what I was thinking, because I noticed that clothes that I was wearing in July, like I went to a conference in July. In August, I had a huge 2-week test. So I pretty much, for 2 weeks, all of my meals were DoorDash. And then I noticed that there, some of the same clothes that I wore in July were not fitting me September 1st. So I was like, okay, how much? I don't think I actually gained 20 pounds in a month. So, But yeah, so there's a very good chance that that's the cause of it.
Well, you think you didn't, but your shirt apparently thinks otherwise.
Yeah, just be careful with that. You don't want to wind up like me.
Mhm.
Approaching 50 and already wondering if you're going to make it.
Mhm.
Watch out for that sugar; it'll take your big toe.
That's not the big issue. Yeah. It's the salt.
Yeah, I mentioned the swelling to my doctor at least once. I'll probably talk to her about it some more when I have more in-person appointments.
Right. Especially if you happen to notice it coming back at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Be the perfect time to test for whatever's going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, and even if they don't say anything, you still might want to watch your salt intake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just keep your eye on even if you have to buy quickie meals instead of ordering out just stuff that you
Mhm.
can make in like 5 minutes or less.
Right.
Usually you can find some decently low sodium stuff in quickie.
Oh, and here's also how little you can trust Google. When I searched for it, trying to figure out what possible causes were, the first response I got was, if you drink too much water and don't eat enough sodium, that causes swelling.
Yeah.
My first thought was, wait, do I need to eat more sodium? That doesn't sound right.
Go lick the salt rock.
But for example, El Monterey for frozen burritos are usually about 300 milligrams of sodium per burrito. You can have 2 burritos, and that's a meal. And you're doing good on your sodium because that's only like 600.
Mm.
What are you drinking these days?
Mostly water, other than
Pretty good.
iced pumpkin spice lattes.
But if it's mostly water, you're doing pretty good.
Mhm.
I'm drinking Gamer Subs, which is a multivitamin.
I have a friend in Kent who apparently goes through something like 4 to 5 Monster Energy drinks a night.
Oh Lord.
That's
Yeah.
why I stopped. That's why I stopped drinking energy drinks completely. Because yeah, I used to go through 4 in an 8-hour shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see my assistant manager go through like 2 or 3 of them in a day, and I'm like, good Lord, you're gonna die in like 10 years of a heart attack.
It's like you realize that's basically just sugar and salt, right?
Yeah, like for as much soft drink
Sugar,
as I
salt, and
drink,
caffeine. Yeah.
like
As
for
much
as much
soft drink as you drink. Go ahead.
I've cut down considerably. Like for a while there, I was thinking like, shit, it's weird that I haven't had any heart trouble with the amount I'm throwing back. But then it's also one of those things of like, shit, I'm with how much of this I'm drinking, I'm glad that I don't bother with energy drinks at all, because that'd be even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a brief flirtation with energy drinks when MDX came out. That was the early energy drinks. I remember not realizing that was an energy drink, drinking 4 of those in a night, and not going to on a Friday and not going to sleep until Sunday afternoon.
Yup, I remember that one. I was there for that. Where's Randy? He's usually here for these meetings. A couple hours later. Sorry, I was completely out of it. I've been up since Friday.
Yeah, that was bad. it may have contributed to why I'm here. But yeah, I didn't realize that those were energy drinks. I just thought it was a new Mountain Dew formula. Yeah, well.
You live, you learn.
Anyway, this is not the health food podcast.
Right.
You learn, you get health conditions. Hi, Doctor Who.
My thought was, okay, is this still the Ran update, or should I try to move us along?
Oh no, I passed that torch a while ago. Let's move on.
So on tonight's show, we've got birthdays and news. The BBC is in full publicity mode, so there is a bit of news. We have some geek talk, and then we have our episode summary and our review, final thoughts, and ratings. So
And
Alex,
I'm letting them take care of this as I'm still getting back into the swing of things.
right? So Alex, if you wouldn't mind taking the birthdays.
Yep. Okay, so on the 28th of September, we have 2 birthdays. First off is Terrence Dudley, who was the writer of 3 Fifth Doctor stories and Canine and Company. Would have been 105, but died in 1988 at the age of 69. And also, oh, sorry, no, it wasn't that we had 2 on that 28th. It just, for some reason, my eyes were deceiving me there. But on the 29th of September, we had Nicholas Briggs, who voices the Daleks and a billion other things, from 2005 to present day, turned 61. So moving into October, on the 1st of October, we have Philip Hinchcliffe, who was a Doctor Who producer from 75 to 77, who turned 78. God, at this point, he's got to be one of the few people from back then that old that's still around, I think. Or at least definitely the only showrunner.
Yeah, he's the go-to guy when they want DV commentary or specials.
Mm-hmm. That's because he got to see more behind the scenes than even Tom, and Tom was still pretty active with that.
He actually worked pretty well with Tom.
Mm-hmm.
But he could control Tom. The producers after Hinchcliffe lost that control.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the 2nd of October, we had Ian McNeice, who played Winston Churchill in sporadic appearances from 2010 and 2011. He turned 72. On the 4th of October, we had Daniel Anthony, who played Clyde Langer from 2007 to 2011. He turned 35. And also on the 4th, we had Dudley Simpson, who was a composer of background music from 1964 to 1980. Would have been 100, but he died in 2017 at the age of 95.
5 years of Clyde, that has to make him one of the longest running companions if we count him as one.
Right.
Yeah.
He does technically count as one. He's been running around for multiple stories, and he has traveled in the TARDIS.
Yep, and he outlasted 2 female companions, and
Luke.
And Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a situation of this was like a series per year, not like with Chibnall's run where it's 5 years technically, but like only 3 series. So
right. Yeah, he was on continuous. Anyway.
Back when Doctor Who was every year.
Anyway, moving on to the 9th, we had James Dreyfus, who was the pre-Delgado master for Big Finish, turned 54. And Brian Blessed, which, I could have tried yelling, but I don't think I could do it justice.
I was waiting to say you said it wrong.
Who played King Okanos. He turned 86. On the 10th, we had Joe Dixon, who was Time Lord Chancellor in The End of Time, turned 57. And finally, on the 11th, we have Nicola Bryant, who played Perry Brown from 1984 to 86, and has additionally played her in Big Finish, I'm pretty sure. She turned
Definitely.
62.
All right, moving on to Doctor Who news. The BBC have finally released a trailer for the upcoming special, The Power of the Doctor. And originally I was going to go with a link from Doctor Who news, but I realized Coltbox was nice enough to go through and take a ton of screenshots of the trailer. Not that we have to spend forever on it, because that's a lot of pictures for a 1-minute trailer. But yeah. Probably things worth commenting on here.
The return of the orange spacesuit.
Yep. Though now it looks like they've multiplied.
Again.
Well, considering he's lost the helmet 2-3 times, and that he must have basically set a machine in the TARDIS to mass produce those things.
And yeah, we discussed a week or two back about the return of the Cybermasters and whether or not it makes sense or irritates people. So let's see if they explain that.
A reminder that the worst plot is still involved.
Yeah, I did watch this thing. It's like, oh wow, we've got a montage of the worst of Chibnall. I was just waiting for what's her face, the other Doctor, to show up, and I'm just like, that would be all of it.
I would be shocked if she doesn't show up somewhere in this episode.
I mean,
the
given
saddest part is it's such a waste of a possibly really good Doctor.
Then we got some pictures of Ace, who was still absolutely recognizable as Ace.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, I think there were shots of her in the her bomber jacket, which apparently J&T had basically told Sophie Aldred and Sylvester McCoy to hold on to their costumes for like press and whatever other invited appearances in between seasons after the end of their last season. So Sophie Aldred's kept it in storage ever since.
And hauled it out.
Yeah.
It'd have been great if she had donned it in the episode. It'd be freaking awesome. But no, she's apparently rocking the power business suit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It is one of these images. There's one of her in the bomber jacket with the baseball bat.
Where? Looking. Scanning.
It's below a bunch of Dalek pictures.
Okay, let's hit a bunch of Daleks. Oh shit!
Oh, there's
it
a
looks like
shot
she's
of her.
swinging at one. If that's her, it's a weird angle.
It's a weird angle.
Yeah.
It's hard to see if it's her, but it's definitely her holding it in the one still.
Thought that bat was destroyed.
She apparently found a different one because yes, that was blown up with the spaceship, as far as I was aware.
It got better.
I thought you'd seen it use it on one of the Daleks, and like it snapped in half.
Or something,
and
yeah.
The doctor
I forget
said
what
something
happened.
I do think you're right.
I forget what exactly happened to it, but yeah, it shouldn't be there anymore, at least unless that's a similar or a copy of the same weapon somehow.
I mean, we still don't know if this is the Ace with the time traveling motorcycle from the novels. Probably not, though.
You never know.
That I can't. I literally. I'm not. I can't fathom what the discourse would be if.
And
if
apparently,
those
Vinder
novels
has an
were brought into
X-wing.
things.
Vinder apparently has an X-wing now.
I was looking at the pictures that we. I was looking at the pictures we skipped through.
The heck?
You notice there's a picture of Ace parachuting in the
Yeah.
jet.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that.
And then you've got the Master apparently doing his Rasputin imitation.
Yeah,
Which
they,
I forget.
they have said it actually is Rasputin, apparently. He is
I forget if
Rasputin.
it was on the podcast or not where we talked to. Oh, yeah, I think it was where we talked about how much that actually makes sense given the story of Rasputin.
Yes.
True.
Rasputin.
I would like to say that while Ace still is easily recognizable as Ace, Janet Fielding, I can't see Tegan in her picture.
Certain angles, I can see it. In certain angles, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. When I first looked at her, I was like, that face looks almost familiar. And then I read that it was Janet Fielding. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I think it doesn't help that as Tegan, she always had short hair. Or at least shorter hair, anyway.
I suppose that's true. She did have slightly shorter looks
Nope.
back then.
I think when she's standing there with her arms crossed, she's easier to recognize. That's a very
Okay, yes,
Tegan.
she is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Certain
gotten
expressions
kind of-
and body poses, you suddenly go, yeah, that's Tegan.
Yeah.
Her face has gotten bonier. Where she used to have a lot rounder cheeks, now she's kind of got sunken cheeks. Yeah, that hairstyle is not helping either.
But what I found most unique, like most interesting about the trailer compared to what we knew before, was that we've got at least one, possibly two alien planets that do not seem to be Gallifrey. Because there were like the giant orange mushrooms, and then there's like the jellyfish creatures. Which I don't see a photo of the giant mushroom things, but they were in the trailer.
I saw them.
Oh, there they are.
There
They're
is.
right below
Yep.
Vendor.
Yep.
Yeah. And these mushrooms do not have Chris Pratt bouncing on them.
And someone loaded up the Death Star. Is this show seriously borrowing from Star Wars at this point? Seriously?
Probably. You said Chris Pratt bouncing on the mushrooms. I was thinking Jim Carrey.
Depends if you're going animated or live
Sonic.
action.
From Sonic, yes.
Well, I was just thinking about the new Mario trailer from this week.
I have not seen that, so.
Ah.
A lot of people are kind of on Chris Pratt's Mario. A lot of people, though, love the new Bowser.
I think it's because a lot of people really want the high-pitched Italian Mario, whereas I would have gone with the Lou Albano version anyway, which seems to be what he's trying to pull off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Lou Albano's always going to be Mario in my book.
Honestly,
I
it
guess
just sounds like
again-
Chris Pratt to me.
I've had this argument with my friend from Kent, who actually liked the movie, the original one, and I'll
Really?
admit, the guy they got to play Mario in that movie,
Oh, yeah.
great freaking actor.
Yeah. If he was still alive, he would have been one of my choices as well.
Mm-hmm. To come back to at least voice it. But anyway.
Back on topic, it does look like something the exact same size as Earth is whatever's attacking it.
Yeah, it's literally becoming a Death Star. And I'm sitting here just going, shame. You're not even hiding it. I called out the X-Wing earlier, and now you're using the Death Star. Shame.
What do we think of the TARDIS or with the ha 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 ha?
I see that. All I can think of is the Joker given omnipotent powers.
Yeah.
Yes, very much yes. Which, I mean, sometimes the Master does turn a bit jokery.
And we've already
I'm
seen.
sorry. I'm looking at that, and I'm like, am I supposed to feel threatened? Because I don't feel threatened. Phrase
we've
I'm coming up
and-
with is meh.
And we've already seen the TARDIS with a changed logo back when they did the whole Bad Wolf thing.
Yeah, if it was Bad Wolf, I
right.
would have actually taken it more seriously.
Oh, although that's right, and I didn't notice this except for the caption. In the scene with the jellyfish things, there's 2 TARDISes.
So apparently one of them must be a
Jellyfish.
trap or something.
It's a trap. Yeah.
The more I keep getting more Star Wars references on this, the more I'm just
Oh.
like, oh Lord, please don't.
Although jellyfish things, they could be Metroids. I don't know.
Ooh. The Doctor versus Metroid.
Gonna have to save it from the space pirates.
Oh, this is interesting. In the scene where the Doctor seems to be regenerating, there's a Cybermaster in the background.
Yeah. All right. Well, we weren't going to go through all the pictures. We went through all the pictures.
Yeah.
All right. So, along with the trailer, came the air date for the special. As many sources have speculated, The Power of the Doctor will air on Sunday, the 23rd of October, which is the final day of the BBC's centenary celebrations.
So they're suddenly surprising us with a date halfway into the month. Like, barely a week away.
2 weeks away,
2
man.
weeks away, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not unusual for the BBC. Hell, it's a week early for the BBC. They usually don't release the date until the week of.
I can't even guarantee I get off work.
Right. They have issues with the ratings, but then they don't give people enough notice to be able to watch it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's because they're still old school. But we'll just put it in the radio time. No, people, you need to freaking push this.
Yeah,
Although I would-
23rd, I work 4:45 till close. Yeah, I ain't hitting there.
Although I do imagine the BBC, the kind of, fancy suit people who are like, yeah, nobody works on Saturdays and Sundays, right? Everybody's at home from Friday night until Sunday night.
Yeah, and I bet there's people going, I wonder why we don't get ratings like we did in the 70s. It's called cable and streaming television.
Yep.
Is there something wrong with our way of programming? Nah, it's the viewers to blame.
All right. Speaking of the BBC, in an interview with BBC News, David Tennant has revealed that he believes text exchanges started by virtual watch-alongs during pandemic lockdowns were instrumental in developing the idea that would become his and Catherine Tate's involvement in the 60th anniversary special. Tennant was quoted saying, it all slightly happened a little bit by accident when everybody was locked in their house. At a certain time and day, everyone would press play on a certain episode, and some of the people who had been involved in those episodes were tweeting along. He mentioned that he doesn't tweet, but that Georgia helped him with that part. He said we were having a text exchange, and Catherine Tate said, wouldn't it be fun to do it again? And RTD said, we could do a one-off. Maybe they'd let us. And they said, yeah, that would be a laugh. Then RTD became the showrunner again and invited them to do just that. So David doesn't know if that, is actually what caused him to take the idea. But it certainly could have influenced the what became the 60th anniversary specials.
I'm looking forward to that.
Here's hoping.
Yep. That's part of the issue with the centenary publicity. We've been seeing all this stuff for the 60th for the past 6 months. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, we
Oh,
also have
that's
an
right.
episode
There's
coming
also
out."
this other episode coming out first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, from what I understand, what we're going to see is this episode, and then the 60th, which is going to have nothing to do with continuity. It's going to take us back to the 10th Doctor and Donna, and then we're going to jump back forward to this is what happened after. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's why, like, in my head, I'm wondering if the actual idea is that there's going to be, like, a thing with Shudigatwa doing some sort of thing with Tennant.
I don't think so. I think it's.
But
I think it's just
knows?
Tennant and Tate. I think this is a complete aside from the regular continuity. I mean, the regular, line. They're just gonna backpace us back to here's stuff I could have done if I hadn't left.
Which I guess to that extent, I was kind of worried about the idea of debuting a new Doctor in an anniversary special when you're also trying to harken back to stuff. So
I'm wondering if
Just
that's why
like-
they did it too.
yeah, because like I feel like ideally you would want to get the next series in, but because of everything going on, it was probably like, we'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sophie Aldred also did a recent interview. This one with Doctor Who magazine. That's also where I got the what I mentioned about the jacket from the 80s. But in that, she mentioned that she was surprised when she arrived for a costume fitting, and was told that she was scripted for more scenes than she had assumed she was in. So it sounds like she's has a pretty big role in the episode. Aldred also requested to do her own stunts, much to Janet Fielding's chagrin, and referred to the fact that they did not have stunt doubles in the 80s.
Oh yeah, she and Sylvester McCoy all did their own stunts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I remember that from the making of Silver Nemesis, showing them
Yeah.
jumping onto crash pads.
Yep. Frequently, and there was a lot of explosions that episode.
Also, apparently, she wanted to drive a motorcycle, but they are a little concerned at her age of letting her do that
Oh come
in
on!
the filming.
Which is kind of funny when you think about the fact that John Pertwee was in his 50s when he was doing all his Action Man stuff.
Come on!
I mean,
it's just her
I
riding a
think-
bike. How hard could it be? If
Yeah.
you're doing crazy stunts on the bike, then I would have questions.
Yeah, it was just, it's just like all she's doing
that's
is
the
just
reason why
driving
they got.
around.
That's the reason why they got stunt writers for common writers after the
Yeah.
lead actor accidentally broke both his legs doing a stunt.
Well, you gotta wonder. Look at Harrison Ford. That man, I don't think can make a movie without breaking something.
He
Yeah.
certainly can't get in a plane without breaking something.
No.
Yes, especially.
Oh wait, you're talking about part of his body, not okay.
No, but
Yeah.
no, he means part of the body.
Right. All right. Moving on to the next thing, the BBC have announced a DVD and Blu-ray release as a box set for the series 13 specials. This will include Eve of the Daleks, Legend of the Sea Devils, and The Power of the Doctor. And we'll have behind-the-scenes features and audio commentaries for all three specials. The Power of the Doctor will also be available separately. This releases on November 14 in the UK and is not on the US Amazon yet. So hopefully it's also out in the US.
It will be probably about February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And finally, Big Finish, which has actually been relatively quiet during the past 2 weeks. Uh, we have the Doctor Chronicles, the 11th Doctor Geronimo, released on October 6th, written by Alfie Shaw, Georgia Cook, and Rachel Patel, and starring Jacob Dudman and Sophia Ingar, who I think might be a Big Finish only companion. But it's the Doctor Chronicles because it's Jacob Dudman and not Matt Smith. And then on the 11th of October, so, well, what would have been today at the start of this podcast, is Master Nemesis Express, written by Robert Whitelock, Lisbeth Miles, and Robert Valentine, starring Eric Roberts and Chase Masterson. And the final item before moving away from the news is I placed this under rumors because we really don't have any good evidence for it. The Mirror has reported that Bonnie Langford will be returning to play Melanie Bush, not just in Big Finish as she's been doing, but in live-action Doctor Who. The BBC have declined requests for comments about this, and there has not been any actual named source.
They named the source as Bonnie Langford herself.
Who did? The Mirror?
Yes.
Because I know Radio Times just said the Mirror claims it, but wouldn't say from...
Did you chase it back to the Mirror article?
No, because I was going to ignore this until Radio Times picked it up because it was the Mirror. Let's see.
It doesn't help that the Mirror is usually very speculative.
It doesn't help that the Mirror is the Mirror.
Exactly. I was literally not planning on covering this, and then Radio Times picked it up, and I figured we had to. And now there's just shit popping up all over my screen while I'm trying to find
all I
this.
see is Radio Times. We value your privacy. No, you don't. Get off my ad.
That's why I've got ad blocker. But
I have
yes.
ad blocker too, but Radio Times is a giant prick.
Normally, when they're lying, they'll say an insider source or something like this. This, however, says the Just William star, aka Bonnie Langford, has returned as Mel in several audio versions of Doctor Who for Big Finish, but has told how she gave conditions before accepting the role. Speaking this summer, she explained no screaming, and please, can we build her character a bit? I was constantly seeking a more substantial role. Melanie just said, but doctor, and scream.
Which she has gotten over in the audios, but she kind of needs to put her foot down and if she's going to come back to the show in any live, meaningful way.
Speaking on a podcast, Langford said, I don't know what it's like or what it's about, but he's emailed me and said, would you do it? And I said, yes, absolutely. It's just so fascinating.
So she might be making an appearance in New Who here.
Apparently, it's a rewrite of a script Russell T. Davies wrote back in the 80s.
Dang.
For Colin Baker and Mel. But
which was released as a Big Finish story.
Well, yeah, now he's rewriting it.
Rewriting it and adding it into canon more officially.
Well, no, I mean writing it probably to fit the new Doctor.
That too.
That said, we do know that there are 3 60th anniversary specials, and they've commented that we only know the David Tennant stuff because it was all filmed outdoors. So there, there has been the question of what else is going on with the 60th.
Yeah, what else is going on? What are they hiding inside of buildings that we can't see?
Right.
Okay, well, so this one, if Langford said this on a podcast, that's word of mouth from the actress herself. So we can hit confirmed on that one. Although I would like to find the podcast that she did.
Yeah, I'd like to
Right.
find the full context here because
Yeah,
there's like
because-
maybe, but
Even just the way it's cited here is choppy and out of context. Like every
Yeah.
paragraph is separated from the context of what came before. So I would definitely want to see the original source.
I'm betting it was the Big Finish podcast, which I can never find old copies of.
Ah,
Hmm. If you have old copies of the Big Finish podcast, please send them to us through.
so that said, a return of Mel giving her some character development could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Of course, with how Ace was set up in like the ads for one of the one of the Blu-ray box sets, and how seemingly, yep, that's canon. We're following with a charitable Earth. It's curious if they're gonna go with the same thing that happened with Mel, where she's like this. She was running like an intergalactic thing where like people would pitch her stuff or whatever. I forget exactly how that how that trailer went, but yeah. Generally, she was doing quite well for herself.
I don't remember that one. Did we cover it on the podcast?
I think so, but it would have been a while ago because this was
Okay. Maybe I'll have to look it up. But that is our last bit of news, which brings us on to Geek Talk.
And there's only one bit, as I saw.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Bayonetta.
Yep. I finally got off my ass and played Bayonetta because I was basically just like, well, it's October. I kind of want to do something like to fit the season. So after like humming and hawing about it, I realized, oh yeah, shit, I haven't played Bayonetta yet properly. I tried playing it once on the Wii U, but just kind of gave up for whatever reason without getting all that far in. And then I ended up beating it in like 3 days last week on stream. To be fair, one stream quite long. Because I realized I was so close to the end and I didn't have to work the next day, so I was just like, well, fuck it. Just went for it. And I think it was also, I already knew that we weren't streaming last week, doing the podcast last week, so I was also just like, and just kept going and finally beat it. But yeah, it is a good game, but like, holy crap, I don't know who that normal difficulty is supposed to be for, but it sure shit ain't me. Like, it was so bizarre. Like, I've started Bayonetta 2, and normal on that is doable, but normal difficulty on Bayonetta 1 felt like I was playing hard mode. Which was so weird. And then I dropped it down to like, it took me in one stream, I got through like the prologue and the first 2 chapters on normal difficulty, and that took a decent stretch of time. And then the second one, after I switched to easy, I got through like 5 chapters in one sitting, which was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely preferable.
Progress at rapid speed.
Yeah. And you know, it's still hilarious to me that like I was playing the Nintendo Switch port, and it's just so funny that a game, to be fair, ultimately as sexual as it is, it's still very tame, and also it's very clearly like played for comedy rather than trying to be like, oh yes, we're going to appeal to a bunch of horny teens or something. Like horny teens will still get something out of it, but you know, it's just so kind of funny that yeah, they're basically playing it for laughs. And it's also just funny that I've seen plenty of people joke that these are the closest to a depiction of biblically accurate angels as you'll probably ever see.
Yeah, by the way, biblical descriptions of angels are effing weird. I have looked into that before, and it's like, the heck am I even reading here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, six wings, several dozen eyes, what?
Yeah, like there are things in this where it'll be like, I think even the things that are described, I don't know if they're actually called cherubs or not, but the things that would essentially you'd think would be the equivalent of are basically just a face with wings. And it's like, okay.
Oh,
and like
look
the
at that.
bog,
Kill it with fire.
yeah. And like one of the bosses is like this, like, you know, this thing with like no it's just like a giant head with these two dragon heads coming off of it as well as limbs, and it's like, I don't know what, you know, like drugs these Christians were doing, but they must have been pretty good when they were coming up with this shit. Because it's like, okay,
I think somebody
like,
might have
this
been
is
hotboxing the room with their hookah.
yeah. Like, it's just so like, okay, but whatever, but, you know, and like the demon designs are kind of fun. Not that you get many; it's basically just whatever Bayonetta summons. But yeah, it's. I will admit, I didn't expect to like feel anything, but there is like an emotional through line at one point. That was like, oh well, fuck, they almost got me with that.
Well, apparently, from what I've been told, with the third game upcoming, they've actually been slowly progressing the characters, so...
I mean, yeah. I mean, they have to give a reason for a plot, so even in the second one, there's an ongoing plot for an emotional attachment to drive her through. Which is funny, because it's kind of like Deadpool in that way, where while she's not breaking the fourth wall or anything, it's very much they have to give a focus, because otherwise she'd just be off doing whatever.
Well, you say she doesn't break the fourth wall, but I've seen plenty of imagery where she just kind of winks at the camera. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But, you know, it's definitely not Deadpool levels in any case. But yeah, anyway. It's definitely a good game. I would definitely say that it is worth checking out if people never have before, especially with the third game coming out at the end of the month. I think if it's not coming out on Halloween, it's coming out like either a couple of days before or the day before.
Something like that. It's coming up very soon either way.
Yeah, and if you're not trying to 100% it, you can seemingly get through it pretty quick, even if you're playing it in shorter bursts than I am. So yeah, I honestly think it's worth checking out.
I'm mad finding out this game is from 2009 when I've seen people talk about how nostalgic they are for it and how it was a game from their childhood and all this shit that made me think it was a 90s game that I had just not been aware of until later, and here I find out it was from 2009.
Yeah.
Yes, a childhood game, Bill, which means that they were probably in their teens. And 2009 was... Oh, gosh, that's almost 20 years ago.
Definitely, yeah.
No, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's over 10 years ago.
It is 13 years ago, guys. Do the math.
That's what I
my
said.
brain don't
10
work
years.
math fast enough.
2020.
So yeah, these people saying that they remember the good old days of Bayonetta, Bill, are like in their 20s.
All right. So I guess it's time to move on to the summary.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, who is
I
it
just
tonight?
realized. It is me.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So the story starts with a meteor crashing to Earth. There's a homeless man who just happens to live nearby, who's watching it, and realizes the meteor is actually a man made of metal who looks around and then turns invisible. We then cut to Sarah Jane, who finds a baby on her doorstep. And then she finds out that when that baby cries, all of the light bulbs on the entire street break. So, of course, she calls Ronnie and Clyde because she has no idea what to do with the baby. Uh, they go to investigate more and leave Clyde with the baby because he's shown that he actually knows at least a little bit about what to do with the baby. They go to where the meteorite was, where they meet the scientist from, I think she was the one who was studying ghosts in a previous episode. And she also meets the eyewitness who tells her about the metal man. In the meantime, unbeknownst to all of them, a woman comes through and just shows up in a nuclear power plant and like steps on a man's chest for fetish reasons, I guess, and then demands he help her find her child. Uh, this leads to them going on a quest to find the baby, who Sarah Jane has named Sky. And of course, Sarah Jane also is heading back to it, realizing that the metal man is probably there to destroy the baby. The woman and the metal man finds Clyde, and then the woman, whose name is Miss Myers, ends up taking him to the power plant. But Clyde and then Sarah Jane, when she arrives, do not allow Miss Myers to take the baby back because they're still trying to figure out why Sarah Jane was tasked with protecting the baby, and then find out the baby was basically just a bio weapon designed to destroy the metal people. In the process of all of this, the baby turns into a 12-year-old girl. Uh, and then they bring her back to Sarah Jane's house and find out that basically she's that age because that was optimized based on her bioprogramming to be the most effective bomb, that she's supposed to sacrifice herself to destroy all of the metal people. They realize the only way to defuse this bomb is to talk to the person who made her, which is Miss Myers. So they break back into the nuclear power plant. But Miss Myers has kind of set a trap by convincing the metal person to summon his entire species to come to Earth, meaning that they will basically destroy the Earth unless Sky sacrifices herself. However, Ronnie and Clyde managed to reverse the polarity, preventing them all from coming through. There's a big feedback that hits Sky and causes her to no longer be a bioweapon. And then the metal man uses the last of his power to take Miss Myers away with her, leaving Sky to be Sarah Jane's new adopted daughter. The end.
3 minutes, 37 seconds.
Not bad with no notes.
So, Luke and Sky, if Sarah had a third child, would that be Walker? Hope it's a boy.
And not a Texas Ranger.
And not Texas Ranger, right?
Oh.
Walker, London Ranger, yeah.
Walker London Ranger.
So let's see. So Matt's name needs to be crossed out, and Rand's name needs to be put back in. I don't know why it just went. Which I guess means I need to flip a coin to see if Alex or I go first.
Mm.
Oh, and it looks like I am first. Okay, so what did I like about the episode? So if this were any other show, I would have been like, I liked that they didn't force the girl to be the paternal one and actually had Clyde have some paternal instincts. But honestly, with the Doctor Who property, it kind of figured that was always what was going to happen. It's not, it doesn't really stand out in any way. Um, I guess the whole idea of the conflict between the metal kind and the flesh kind is kind of interesting. I don't know if it was executed in the way that it could have been, but the idea of you have these basically super powered human people, and then you also have these superhuman metalloid people, um, and they're in a conflict over a super weapon. That is kind of interesting. That's it for me. Alex?
Um, I guess the main thing that I liked is that this didn't feel like, as much as I like joked before we got to this, based on what I had read more than having actually watched it, was that it felt like it was just gonna be how Luke showed up again, but with maybe slight tweaks. But I generally like that this felt a hell of a lot different. I mean, to be fair, the one introducing Luke was also, you know, essentially the pilot for the show. But still, like, it feels different enough. I mean, like, there are similarities, but Um and it's just nice to be like, given the age demo this is aimed at, it's nice that they actually got like a kid.
Right. Right.
Actually,
An
like,
actual child in a
rather
children's show. Who would think?
Oh yeah, and I just remembered I did not in the summary include the shopkeep and the captain, who this ended up being their last appearance because of the show ending early,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not meant to be.
yeah.
All right, Rand, what did you like?
Well, again, I also liked the whole conflict thing, but for a different reason than you.
Okay.
I like the amount of detail they put into it, the amount of realistic detail, with each side blaming the other for starting the war. Oh, you've
That's
killed our
fair.
people. Oh, your people mined our planet for metal. You killed our children. You know, it's one of those things that, you would have to, that would take a proper mediation, but nobody's willing to mediate.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, on to what we disliked about the episode. And that's as much as there was detail about like the broad strokes of the conflict, I wish we saw more of the conflict in the two representatives we got. I mean, or I guess Miss Myers probably maybe she was fleshed out enough, but I wish particularly the metal kind guy that we saw more of him. I thought it was really interesting that he made a point. He seemed not to kill anybody or be aggressive in any way while he was looking for Sky, despite this vendetta. And I just wish we saw more of his thoughts because really he only speaks twice. Sorry, he speaks twice. Um, and it would have been really cool to just see more of his thoughts and personality since he had such a major role in the episode.
Mm.
Right, Alex?
Um. Hmm. Let's see. God, I'm trying to think if there's anything that overall bugged me that you didn't essentially just cover.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you kind of got everything he was gonna talk about.
God. Let's see. Is there anything else? It's like, it's one of those things of like, there's probably something I have an issue with, but it just isn't jumping out at me at the moment. Yeah. I think I'll have to pass for now, and if I can think of anything else, I'll jump in.
Okay. Ran?
All right, so my issue is with Sky. And that is when you boil it down to the basics, she's just a retread of Luke. Aliens come to Earth with child with extraordinary powers, and they wind up being adopted by Sarah Jane Smith.
Mm-hmm.
It shows, and I mean, I really thought they could have been more creative than that.
I mean, at the very least, they didn't make Sky a super genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Instead, they gave her super electricity power.
Mm-hmm.
Which I haven't seen anything past this, so I don't know if that little tease at the end of, oh, she hasn't lost all her powers.
Oh, no, that never gets readdressed, because it probably would have come up at the last half of the season. But again, cut short because of Elizabeth Sladen's death.
If nothing else, I'm sure it would have come up in the Battle of Bannerman Road, but that was never filmed. So
yeah.
And you know that she must have had the cancer that killed her when they're filming this. She doesn't look bad at all.
Not yet, at least. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about this. I think, well, yeah, last podcast, she would have. I think she would have. I think she was diagnosed in between seasons, so when this was filmed, she definitely would have been aware of it.
But it's not affecting her looks, or I can't tell. You know, she's a good enough actress that she doesn't show any, discomfort doing stuff. So, yeah. It's just kind of weird to know that, less than a filming season later, she'd be dead from cancer.
To that end, though, now that you mention that, I am realizing that a lot of the more running around and doing things were given to Ronnie and Clyde, so that might have been somewhat of a result of it. Like, she was starting to slow down, so they were putting more emphasis on the kids.
Oh, maybe.
That is possibly a smart way to shoot around that, yeah.
So that was what Rand disliked. So I'm gonna go to favorite scenes, and actually, this realized I probably could have talked about this at things I like, but it works just as well at favorite scenes. Whereas I like the scene of Sky and Ronnie in Luke's room, where she was just talking about how experiencing the Earth and how much Sky likes it and everything, and I thought it really gave personality to the character. And you really showed her as kind of unique, and just she's interested in the world around her. Which is a good contrast compared to Miss Myers, who just wants her to blow up. And it's just even contrasted to Luke, who I don't think was that like expressive about things.
Yeah.
Even when he first came around, so it really set the character on her own.
Hmm. I mean, I just remember like both times I've watched that scene, it was just kind of funny because it's like, what's a girl? Because it's like she has no concept of like
Mhm.
anything pretty much. Like she has some basic concepts down, but stuff like that, she's like, what the hell is this? uh,
Yeah, that's not something Clyde taught her during the puppet show.
Show us where the puppet touched you. Show us on the doll.
Okay. All right, Alex, favorite scene?
I forget what that's from.
um, let's see. God. I guess I'm just gonna go with Clyde. It arguably could be the montage, but just generally Clyde trying to entertain Sky was very funny. Um just like, oh god damn it, why did they saddle me with the kid? And like
Mm.
trying to do his best to do that and real like his phone going to shit because in a very that's something that didn't even occur to me until now. It's very Monsters Inc. logic. When she like although I guess in a way opposite because when she cries, it's not that there's the power overloading so much as just bursting. Like the power goes out when she cries, but it seemingly overloads stuff when she laughs.
Hmm.
All right, Ran.
So I like the scene where they question the old homeless guy.
Mm, that is a really good one.
Hmm.
I just enjoyed it. It was just his immediate suspicion, and
Hmm.
they're like, "Are you eating batteries?" Yeah.
Fix my radio with a lipstick. I'm homeless, not brainless.
Yeah.
uh,
All right.
It was
Oh, go ahead.
no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna go on to the least favorite scene, but if you're still more to say,
No. Keep going.
okay. All right. Least favorite scene. I feel like I kind of mentioned this during the summary. The whole the scene with Miss Meyer just coming out and immediately standing on the guy's chest was a little weird. There were other ways to check if he was flesh. You know, particular like for Torchwood, I've been fine. I'd be like fine, but for Sarah Jane, it just seemed weird, and I was really glad that even though he was involved in Doctor Who at this point, I was very glad Moffat was not involved in producing Sarah Jane Adventures because they probably would have like focused on that scene even more. And I'm just like, why do we need a standing on his chest scene? And
It's Miss
I
Myers,
mean,
space dominatrix.
right,
I mean, generally, if it was Torchwood, he would have been into it rather than just being like, "What the fuck's going on?"
yeah, pretty much. All right,
And
Alex.
after
Oh,
failing to regain her world, Miss Myers proceeded to get a job at Helga's House of Pain.
uh, uh, see, I guess as far as mine goes, God. God, it's funny because there's one that I'd almost go with, but then I'm just like, well, would that really? Ah. Bloody hell. Don't know why I'm blanking so much. I guess, you know what, I'll go with it anyway. For lack of anything else that's really jumping out at me at the moment. But like Clyde just jumping into the friggin' van. Like, yeah, I get it. He's on the run from something he can't even see. So like should probably take whatever you can get. But also like, well, that backfired. Sort of a thing. Like, you would think by now he's been hanging around Sarah Jane long enough that it's like, would you really trust anyone that you don't know who's just like, here, kid, come jump in the back of my van?
Oh.
I mean, I guess at least the message is ultimately, no, kids, don't do that, because
I was about to say, is it a white van with no license plates?
I think part of
There's
it
a
was
lot
that
of lessons there.
she seemed to know what was going on. She was like, if you want the child to live, come with me. And he's like, okay, like that seems at least like someone who knows what the hell's going on.
yeah.
All right, Ren.
Well, for one, I didn't like that scene either, because
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously, you're going to cheesily requote Terminator. Come with me if you want the child to live. Right. So this is John Connor. Got it. But my personal choice is later on where she's trying to persuade the now 12-year-old Sky to destroy it, and the look on her face is obviously crazed psycho bitch. I mean, she's one step away from Neil before Zod. And, you know, you've got Sarah Jane looking sane, and her with this wide-eyed, tiny-pupiled, kill it now. And I'm like, who are you going to follow?
You know what? Maybe the metal people are a little more sane. We'll see.
Oh, no, they just want to kill you.
Right. I mean, they both, yeah. That's the thing. Of the three, two of the sides want Sky to die, just for different reasons.
I mean, you know, if Sarah Jane wouldn't be there, it'd just be like, screw you guys, I'm going home. But yeah, I mean, it's not even there's not even a she's not even trying to be motherly manipulative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like when she first shows up, she was like, "Oh, help me find my child," to the guy that apparently she ends up like hypnotizing anyway, or whatever you want to call it, brain, mind controlling. Like, if anything, you would think she would like try to be a little more manipulative towards Sarah Jane and Clyde and actually convince them to give the baby back to her without making them suspicious. But instead, she just makes them more suspicious and then proves them right.
No. And of course, like, her introduction is basically a villain introduction, so it's like, we already kind of know where this is going.
Yeah, the character was a little one-dimensional that way.
Yeah.
It was honestly to the point that I legitimately thought that the metal dude was gonna turn out to be like just generally the good guy instead of just also someone we've got to deal with.
Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
I was wondering that too at one point, but nope. It was
And
bad
that's
guys
also
to the
where.
left of me, bad
Mhm.
guys to the right.
And I wonder if that might be why the metal guy talks so little, because it's hard to kind of justify him, because it's like he has this vendetta against all flesh beings, but yet
Hmm.
he doesn't hurt or try to kill anybody except for Sky until after he's already, until after the end when he's supposedly had his brain scrambled. So it's like, I guess, if he talked more, it's almost like, well, he would have revealed all the plot holes. All right, which I guess moves on to final thoughts. And my final thoughts are, it's an all right episode. Like I said, the character of Sky is, pretty unique, pretty, uh, what's the word? Well, dynamic character. Well, very dynamic. She goes from being an infant to a preteen or a teenager. But she's she has a personality. There's a word that I'm blanking on, but it's okay. Um, I think the conflict could have used a bit. The two main characters of the conflict could have used a bit more fleshing out. Um, it definitely seems to be a functional way to start out the season. It leaves us still wondering who the hell the shopkeep and the captain are. Um, just like with many other things, it's very unfortunate that we were not able to get a finish to that. And of course, the reason for that is, the worst part of it. Um, but this story is not hampered by that in the same way as I think it was the last one we covered, right? Was that Lost in Time? Lost in Time was really made confusing and, dysfunctional by the fact that we never really learn more about the captain and the shopkeep. This story, it doesn't really matter as much. We know that they're powerful characters. We know we've seen them before, and we know exactly as much about them as Sarah Jane does. And that's really all we need to know for this particular story.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all, I'd say it's an all right story, not great, but I would say it's on the side of good. And moving on to Alec.
Yeah, it's very much like, I mean, it's basically impossible to compare this to uh Luke's debut because that is just very clearly a much better story, but I think it's also because that's actually trying to like do stuff other than just introduce a new character for the most part. Like this, I guess this has a moral somewhere in there, but like it's kind of jumbled a bit outside of maybe just like, just because this is this lady's daughter doesn't mean that she's a fit parent kind of a thing. Um I don't know. Which I guess it's nice to have kids that end up getting adopted in a story where it's not like a horror thing where the kid turns out to be fucked up. But yeah. It's like it's functional, it does what it needs to. It could have been a lot worse, but it also could have been a lot better. Um I almost do wonder if it would have been better served if the thing that crashed, well, I was about to say if the thing that had crashed to Earth had been Sky, but then that's a bit Superman. um Not that that's stopped anyone before, but
Or
still.
a bit Goku.
Yeah. Um but like I guess generally yeah, you really could just get rid of the metal dude and have like the mom come off as a lot more sympathetic, like not just showing up and immediately being a Disney villain. Like, very evil stepmother energy, but yeah, it's just like I enjoyed the woman's performance. Like she knows the show she's on and she's going for it. So at least to me that makes it enjoyable. I don't think she ever really crosses the line into chewing the scenery outright. Um or just devouring it, but which even then that can't be fun sometimes, but still. Um but it just seemed funny that she's always in that mode and she doesn't start off as like, hey, this is my kid. Like basically as soon as the metal kind dude shows up, she immediately jumps into like, no, that's not a kid, it's a bomb. Oh well, yeah, who cares if it's that kid's a bomb? Like they're supposed to kill all of you, so I don't give a fuck. It's very like, wow, that was very turn on a dime with that. Um But yeah, it's like if it had just been her actually coming off as not, which again, I guess to a point they'd already sort of done anyway with one of the oh my god, what are they? The farting aliens?
Slovene.
Slovene, yes. Like in one of the stories about that, there's something like that. So maybe that's why they didn't go there. But yeah, it just feels like this isn't unsalvageable by any means. It's still like good. It's just that, it could have been a lot better with some tweaking. I would still say it's worth checking out and there's still things to like about it, but yeah. It definitely feels like this is one that for whatever reason just doesn't reach its full potential.
All right, Ran.
All right, I feel actually this is a bit of a mediocre episode. It has some intriguing ideas, but a lot of it's buried between the recycled character that is Sky and the one-dimensional acting that is Sky's mother. Or at least one-dimensional characterization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if the actress wanted to do more with it, but got shut down or what happened, but
She was definitely written one-dimensionally.
and then you've got the metal kind who's barely even one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, you could have made it a Cyberman and it would have made the same amount of difference. Or a Dalek. Except you don't want to use those because those are Doctor Who monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
I guess with all the war on the flesh talk, it could have been a Cenobite.
I mean, it's just kind of generic baddie that says nothing. So, I really think there could have been more done with this. And they went for the cheap way out. So, I'm less than impressed by it. That's it.
All right, that brings us on to ratings. And I can't adjust my rating based on what anyone else says. So I need to decide between a 3.5 and a 4. And I think I'm going to come down as the 3.5.
All right.
In which case, I will probably definitely be the person going a bit easier on this one because I'm falling onto a 4.
Well, that's fair. You were the one who gave Invasion of. You were the only one who gave Invasion of the Bane a 4.5 as well. So,
I
looked it up because you were comparing the two.
And yep, and I'm going to be the harsh one because I'm going to give it a 3.
All right. So that comes to an average of 3.5.
Which means Bill was right.
Let's look that up in our rankings.
For now.
So 3.5 is the range from 283 to 302. And yes, I did resort our rankings in between podcasts, so that is relatively up to date. It is on par with No Sarah Jane Stories, with Torchwood Small Worlds. It is not as good as Class Detained, Torchwood Dead Man Walking, or Torchwood Adam. There we go. The next up Sarah Jane episode is The Gift, 3.7. And it is better than Torchwood They Keep Killing Susie, The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith, and K9 The Fall of the House of Griffin. So that is it for Sky. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've watched it. And subscribe on YouTube to get our exports every week, which has been less of every week lately, but when we export. Or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next week we continue, or hopefully next week, we continue with more Sarah Jane with The Curse of Clyde Langer, written by Phil Ford and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra, and Sinead Michael as Sky Smith.
All right. We'll see you next week, or we hope.
See you all later.
See you then.